Good morning, everyone, and welcome to New Mexico's Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce Business Echo program. We are going to start with a few housekeeping items. But before we do that, we'd like to go over our reason for using this platform. And by using this platform, we're using the Echo model. We're creating a space where IT business owners, professionals, and entrepreneurs can connect with experts and with each other to share strategies, tackle real challenges, and grow together. This isn't about one person teaching and everyone else listening. It's about all of us learning together because when one business grows together, when one business grows stronger, it strengthens the entire ecosystem. And before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items and let everyone know that this session is being recorded. So please be mindful of what you choose to share. Please mute your mic if you are not speaking. And please keep your camera on because we love seeing your friendly faces and it really does help build community. Please be kind and mindful of others. And we'd like to ask that you update your Zoom to show both your first name, last name, and the agency you're with. And now we'd like to get started with introductions for our hub team. Once again, my name is Laura Chavez, and I'm going to be the facilitator for today's session. I am a project manager here at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce. Dominic, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Laura. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dominic Baca. I'm a destination sales representative here in the at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also part of the hub team at the Business Echo here at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Dominic. Mark?
Mark Fidel. I am with Fidel Consulting Group, my own technology consulting firm, and I am one of the subject matter experts for the Hispano Chambers Project Echo.
Thank you, Mark. Greg?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Greg Mullen with AVQ IT and also a member of the Hub team.
Great. Welcome, Greg. Casey?
I am Casey Colleton. I'm a program specialist at Project Echo.
Welcome, Casey. And for all of our participants online, if you can please type in your name, last name, and agency into the chat box. We'd love to know who you are and who you're with. And so now I'd like to introduce our presenter for today. The topic is using AI to research and create presentations by Mark Fidel with Fidel Consulting Group. Mark, take it away.
Thanks, Laura. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody is doing great today. If you're not wearing green, you're going to get pinched something awful. Happy St. Patty's Day. Good job, Daryl. Thank you. You're out of the target zone. And of course, Dominic. Reason I wanted this topic to come to light is I've created and given a lot of presentations over my career. And what I like doing is providing the presentations. What I hate doing is researching the presentations. It helps me obviously learn the topic, et cetera, but there's ways to get that information that are more efficient and more effective, especially with AI models that we're using today. I'm going to focus on two AI platforms. One is ChatGPT, and it's running 5.4 currently. I subscribe to that, $20 a month. And the other is Claude, and I subscribe to that as well. There's other models out there, Grok from X, Gemini from Google, et cetera. I'm going to focus on these two. The goal here is to be able to have a topic, help work with the AI to create the agenda for a presentation, and then work with the AI to create the content for the presentation. And then depending on the AI model, actually have it develop and deliver the presentation. Not deliver, but provide the presentation in a format that's useful, right? As soon as it starts delivering the presentation, then I'll sit back and maybe collect the royalties. And I think Greg can talk to that in later sessions as far as the delivery portion. As a heads up for those who are in the audience here, for the case study portion of today's program, think about a presentation you need to develop or want to develop, right? And for the case study, I'll take a volunteer and we'll walk through doing exactly that. Okay. And if you like the results of what you're seeing, get your email address to me either in the chat or send it to the project Echo team at Hispano Chamber, and I'll get you the presentation, okay, that we create out of this. If there's any questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to ask those questions. I'm going to be focused on some screens, so Dominic or Laura, I'll rely on you to say, hey, there's a question mark. Of course, I think folks are free to come off of mute and ask questions in real time if that works for them. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we'll jump right into it. And so right now you should see a screen that says simply, what can I help with? And this is ChatGPT 5.4 thinking, right? And it's already at a new chat. If you were in a previous chat, you can simply go to the left-hand side of the screen and hit new chat, and it will come up with the same screen. This is very Google-esque in terms of its simplicity, right? It's not cluttered. There's no ads yet, at least with ChatGPT. And I think ChatGPT is, I don't know if it started adding ads in as a revenue source, but what can I help with? So, I'm just going to give it the basics. And the basics I'm giving a presentation to a group of attorneys. I'm an attorney, so it's not uncommon for me to do that, to a group of attorneys who are interested in learning more about engaging managed service providers. Now, if you don't know what a managed service provider is, a managed service provider in this sense is a technology company that helps you with various elements of your network, right? And so what I want to be able to do is educate the attorneys, not do a sales pitch to the attorneys, right? And so I'm going to give some parameters. This is an educational presentation, not a sales pitch. And the attorneys are in a variety of industries. Okay. Ask me any questions for clarity. Provide an agenda before we get to the content. Okay, so we're just going to let that spin for a minute. The more information, just like us, right? The more information we have, the better we can deal with the responses, right? And so certainly it comes back to shape the agenda well. Do I need to increase the screen size, by the way? Could I increase the font a little bit?
Maybe just a little
Okay.
bit, Mark. That would be helpful.
How's that? Better?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay, certainly. Thanks. So to shape the agenda well, I want to calibrate for audience sophistication, time, and the practical angle you want to emphasize. So it's giving me a bunch of questions, right? Which is fine. And I appreciate that because that'll help narrow the AI's focus, okay? So I'm just simply going to answer the questions as they were given. 1 hour, right? Number 2. And attorneys managing their firms is my focus, right? And I'm simply answering the questions. What is the audience? Probably mixed, right? 4 is I like a balanced mix of the information, right? And I hit enter before I was ready, so let me finish up here. And it'll ask me possibly, let's see what it comes back with. So with the 1 hour slot, mixed audience, etc., opening, it jumped on the agenda, right? Pretty quickly. Okay. So going through that agenda, and we won't belabor the agenda points, but what's nice is that since I gave it the hour timeline, right, in which to deliver the presentation, it's breaking the segments up into, this should take about 5 minutes. This will take about 7 minutes, 6 minutes, etc. Okay. So why this matters for law firms, right? What an MSP is and is not. Okay. What a law firm should consider an MSP, how to evaluate one, legal and contract issues, cybersecurity realities, red flags, etc. Okay. Without answering all of the questions. Now, let me go back to the questions it was asking. I answered 4 of the questions, and it didn't necessarily need the information from questions 5 through 10. All right. I'll come to those here in a minute. So it gave me a pretty nice agenda. So if I'm wanting to publicize this, right, I have a decent agenda to work from. At the very least, the bold-faced areas are going to be perfect agenda items to send out in marketing material, right? If that's the goal here, okay? Or when it's being advertised, okay? These 9 points, etc. Okay. It gave a suggestion for a presentation title right here: Engaging Managed Service Providers, a Practical Guide for Attorneys and Law Firms. And that's the focus I wanted, right? I didn't want this to be for attorneys who were advising their clients on managed service providers. The audience is law firms, pure and simple. All right. And so use the alternative titles it suggests, and then it gives me 3 alternative titles, but says use the first title, which makes sense, right? Next step is turn this into presentation content. But before I do that, the remaining assumptions I'd make, unless you want them changed, are it's going to be a practical, business-friendly tone rather than highly technical. That's accurate, right? My audience, know your audience, right? And so my audience is technical in the law, but not technical with technology necessarily, okay? Educational and neutral. It's not a sales pitch, right? But by giving a presentation that's educational, I come off as a subject matter expert in the conversation, and then I'll leave myself open to questions and to be contacted following the presentation. Includes example of contract red flags and due diligence questions, perfect for a law firm to understand, right? And to be able to focus on. Lightly tailored to law firms' confidentiality and professional responsibility concerns without becoming a continuing legal education style ethics lecture, which is perfect, right? This is not, I didn't ask for a CLE, a continuing legal education format. If that matches your intent, great. Everything, so, the response, everything looks great. Please, or, proceed. And then I'm going to do in out of caution, this is going to be a little repetitive when I jump over to Claude, because I'm going to give the same prompt to Claude to see what the differences are, okay? And I'll use the 2 AIs, and Greg can probably expand upon other AIs and their tone and approach, but I'll use the 2 AIs differently. If I'm reviewing a document, I'll tend to use ChatGPT. If I'm creating a document, I'll tend to use Claude. It just, the tone is more conversational with Claude and less cut and dry with ChatGPT. So here's the, built the full presentation content outline, opening, right? It gives me all of these. And so what it's done is taken those topics, and now it's built out the content for me, okay? And again, I won't belabor and dive deep into this content, but it's still building it, by the way, right? As I'm talking here, it's still building it. So we'll let that continue on, right? The other thing is then, do I want to then take this information and drop it into PowerPoint as is, or do I want the AI to do the presentation build for me? Again, if you're and I'm a small business owner, right? It's just me and my consulting firm. And so any time saver that I can utilize, I will. And so if I have to split the time between looking for something and doing something, I'd rather automate the looking, right? So that I can work on the doing. Okay. Oftentimes clients don't pay me to educate myself about an issue, right? But they pay me to do something about the issue that they're doing, that they want help with. So now it gives, if you want this to become a deck, I would recommend this following slide flow. Great. And then these can serve three takeaways to reinforce throughout. First, define the scope precisely, understand shared responsibility, especially for security, et cetera. Very specific, right? The suggested tone is practical, neutral, risk aware, plain spoken. Great. So now what I want to do is, build a PowerPoint deck, please, based on this input. And I'm more formal than necessary based on this information, right? I didn't have to say please, right, or thank you, but it is a discourse, right? It is a conversation. So it's going to build the attorney-facing PowerPoint deck. Are there any questions right now?
Yeah,
looks
there's a
like-
question.
Go ahead, Laura.
Great.
Daryl has a question. He says, is there a large difference in the results offered through subscription versus free use of platform?
Greg, I'm going to ask you to weigh in on this. There is, to some degree, typically the subscription will guide you to the latest model of the AI, whereas the free gives you access to an earlier, maybe slower model, maybe less complete. And Greg, I'm not sure if that's an accurate
Yeah,
understanding of
a lot of
paid
times
versus
the
free.
the free versions will absolutely rate limit you.
Okay.
If they do give you access to the latest model at all, depends on the company. I believe Anthropic, which is Claude, and of course OpenAI, ChatGPT, do give you access to the latest model free, but they restrict the thinking capabilities of it. So, like you're using right now, we could see it's thinking, it's reading the skill.md for slides. It's
Right.
doing a lot of extra inference, which takes a lot of extra compute power. And the more compute power they'll dedicate to a task, most of the time, the better its result you're going to get from that task. So for sure, you do get what you pay for, depending on the complexity of the work that you're getting. Free will only get you so far. The goal really is, to bring you in as a paying customer. But like Mark was saying at the beginning, a lot of these are $20 a month plans to get started with the pro versions, which will give you access to the top models and a lot of that extra thinking time for these models.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. And did that answer the question, Daryl? Just let us know in chat, or you can come off mute. Either way is fine.
Yeah, no, that was my question. I know people who pay for $200
Yeah.
for GPT.
I think there the answers end up in gold leaf. I'm not sure. Greg, is that the
Yeah, there's a pro
Right.
version. So the drop down, you have 5.4 thinking. When you have the
Right.
$200 version, you'll have a pro that will show up in there.
Got it.
And I mean, I have it and can tell you that there are some tasks like research tasks or things where it'll just keep working for 30, 40
Yeah.
minutes or more, even up to an hour and more on certain tasks, and it'll just crank on it.
A rumor has it, Greg, that you can hear reservoirs draining when it's doing that for the cooling systems for the data centers that are managing it.
Yeah.
Well, it's working at the bottom of this. It's still working. I'm going to jump over to an instance of Claude that I have ready, and I'm going to enter the same prompt that I use for ChatGPT. Now here, this is free from. This is not my paid version. My paid version is a desktop version, and I'm using Sonnet 4.6, which is the highest capability of their AI model that I can use without upgrading. Okay, so this is web-based. The other one that I'm paying for is desktop-based. I'm going to show you what just the free web-based will do with this information. All right, we'll let that run. And over here in this tab, it's still working, right? It's turning a lot. There's a lot of information happening in the background. What it's doing is it's figuring out, all right, how do I work with PowerPoint, right? And then what do I need to do to be able to take the information that I've developed and then put it into a PowerPoint slide. It's also figuring out some design options, if I'm not mistaken. It'll come out with that. So now, Claude here, if you can see this, let me bump this up in size as well. Oops, wrong way. Let me bump this up in size. So I'd love to help you build this presentation. A few questions to make sure it hits the mark. And a nice feature here is that instead of me responding and hitting one period and then hopefully hitting the return versus hitting an enter, it gives me my choices at the bottom here. So how long is the presentation? It's going to be 45 to 60 minutes, right? What attorney's likely familiarity, some awareness, I'll say. I'm going to select what that is. I'm going to select these topics that I want to cover, and it gives you the option for something else, right? So then I'll go to the next question. Oops. I think it did. Let's see. If I missed a question, missed answering a question, it'll come back. And so it asks that. So there will be, and I'll just say, let's reserve 10 minutes for Q&A, right? On that. And then the next question is any specific concerns, probably cybersecurity and data confidentiality, right? If we're talking about a law firm. All right, and we'll let that go. So then it's building it. Let's see how ChatGPT is still working. Okay. Here's the agenda: introduction 3 to 5, core services. Now you saw that ChatGPT had a solid 7 minutes, right, for introduction. Here it's giving me a range of time. I like this a little bit better because the reality is my speaking style may vary, right, depending on what kind of day I was having when I'm actually giving the presentation. So it's giving me some ranges of times with 2-minute variations. So the introduction, 3 to 5 minutes. Core services, 8 to 10 minutes. Cybersecurity and data confidentiality, 10 to 12. What's the cost in the ROI versus in-house? Contracts and SLAs are service level agreements, right? How to evaluate and vet, and then Q&A. I added a brief vetting section, even though it wasn't a top priority. Great. Cybersecurity is elevated to its own section. And I'm going to say proceed, right? Let it go. Okay. Meanwhile, ChatGPT still working. All right. And it's not a race. It's just what's going on in the background. Now, Greg, I'm sure you've run into this problem, is that it just gets stuck and you have to reload and restart, especially with some of the web-based versions. But they're pretty good at calling out, hey, there's been an error, right? So it's still working from my perspective. Okay. Now, here's the introduction: engaging managed service providers, what attorneys need to know. Oddly similar title from Claude as it was from ChatGPT. Gives the introduction, goes through the core services, et cetera, that kind of content, and it's still building it. Okay. Greg, what I don't know is I'm seeing, right, text being created here. Is the text actually already done? And it's simply parsing it out so it looks like it's, the progress bars on programs that they give you
just
to
to
give
give you
you
the
some
almost
sense
the
of
illusion of the
progress.
feeling of someone typing.
Yeah, is that what's going on here?
I'm not 100% sure. I've
Okay,
heard that before, but that was a few years ago. I think this might
okay.
actually just be typing it out now in real
As
time.
it's creating it right before we see it.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't know if the illusion of progress meant progress, right? And so now it says, would you like me to now build this into a formatted PowerPoint style slide deck, a Word document, or keep it as a speaker's guide? So I'm going to go with PPT, right? And that's all I'm telling it right there. So it's going to work on that for a few moments. How am I doing on time, Dominic or Laura? We okay?
I think we're good on time. We
We're
have
good.
about six,
Okay.
7 more minutes. Yep.
Okay. I have a feeling I'm going to get better. I'm going to get a result from Claude before I'm going to get a result from Chat GPT, just based on the activity going on. And again, this is interestingly enough, this is the 5.4 thinking says thinks longer for better answers versus instant 5.3 answers happen right away. And auto, it determines its response rate based on the context of what you're asking, essentially. Okay. And so my thought is based on the progress I'm making in Claude, I'm actually going to have a PowerPoint presentation out of Claude before I get to the Chat GPT end result. Just a thought. Now, I still have to present this information, right? So what I'll do is I'll take the resulting PowerPoint. By the way, I prefer a presentation package software, piece of software called Prezi, Prezi. It has a little bit more visually interesting element to it than just the serial slides in PowerPoint, right? And I'll show you that here in a minute once I have well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to take all of the content that ChatGPT gave me, right? And I'm going to copy that content and dump it into Prezi and see what Prezi comes up with. So here is the content that I am going to copy. And we'll get this 6, 7, 8. Okay. So here I'm going to stop at Q&A and copy this. I'm going to jump over. Let me share. I'm going to stop sharing because I have a different browser. And I'm going to share the browser that has Prezi. Give me a second to get there. Here it is. Tell me can you see this all right?
Yes.
All right. So Prezi is, and I have a paid subscription to it. So I'm going to dump in, create a presentation about, and I'm going to simply copy. I've copied and I'm pasting that, and I'm saying create with AI. So now what I'm doing is I'm running the results from one AI into another AI. And on the right side here, let me minimize this window a little bit in size so I can manage it a little better. It's progressing. If you don't like the first try, you can create a new presentation. Just click recreate your presentation. So we'll let that run for a minute in the background. Let me flip back over to the window where ChatGPT and Claude are. There it is. Okay, and let's see how. Okay, so now ChatGPT is generating a PowerPoint presentation for managing service providers, which is interesting because it's managed service providers. Let's see what it comes up with. That'll be interesting. It's different, right? Managing service providers is different than managed service providers. So we'll see what that looks like. Presentation, good. All packages are available. Now it's going to build a presentation. So what Claude was doing in the background was making sure it had access to the various software elements it needed in order to build a presentation. So there's a lot happening behind the scenes, right? The beware of the man behind the curtain type thing, right? That's going on here.
And you can click that creating MSP and it'll open that up and show you a little bit more.
Right. And you can see, right, and so here it's taking care of the color sets. It's actually building the presentation and colors, right? And it will come up with a PowerPoint presentation that I can then open in PowerPoint here in a few moments. And so if that's interesting to you to watch, I think it's fascinating, but I'm a little bit of a geek on that. level, you can watch it build, which is pretty amazing as you hear the reservoirs drain. Um, and here you can do the same. It's building and telling you, if you want to read it, what it's doing in the
And Mark, real
background.
quick, if you had like brand colors and guidelines and stuff like
Yep.
that, you could have fed that into it, and it would be building the deck according to your guidelines, right?
Which is perfect, right? If you have that ability, if you're not given a format to present into anyway, right? And that's fantastic. Okay. Now, the big caution is watch out for your trademarked information, watch out for proprietary information in terms of what you're loading into the AI. Okay. So if you're presenting on something proprietary, right, don't put that proprietary information into the model, right? Maybe make it more generic, and then offline or outside of the AI environment, put the proprietary information in so that it's protected. Is that a fair warning, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, by default, uh, it does have the option to train on your data
Yeah,
unless you set that not to train on your data, or if you're on one of the commercial business plans, then by default they don't train on the
right,
data. Yeah.
right. So the $20 a month plan, they don't train by default on the data unless I
No,
opt into it.
they do train by
Oh, they
default
do.
unless you
Okay.
opt out.
Oh, got it. All right, all right. So keep that in mind, everybody, from that perspective. Okay. So it's a lot of watching the sausage being made at this point, right? But by the same token, what I do then is let that run, right, and go do other things. Okay. Manage emails, et cetera, or phone calls, et cetera. So there's a lot happening in the background. And then we can let me jump over to see what Prezi is doing. Let me get to there real quick. Sorry, I know you're not seeing that. So there we go. All right, let me jump back to Prezi because it's finished. So let me share that with you and show you what essentially the presentation based on the Chat GPT data is. Can everybody see this?
Mhm.
All right, great. So now my data in certainly less than, let's say I'll be generous, less than 40 minutes is, I have a presentation navigating MSP engagements for law firms, right? And so Prezi works in this visual element, right? There's a lot of zooming in, et cetera, right? So what an MSP is, what an MSP is not. Now, is this perfect? No. Look at the formatting here, but I can go in and change these things through the editor, right? But this is just to give you an idea of what all of that content that I created in ChatGPT, right, is now looks like visually. Now, check the work, right? If it's citing any references, make sure those references exist. There's a lot of there's some cases where attorneys, and I know we don't have an attorney audience here, but just as an example of to be cautious, attorneys have used the AI models to help them write motions, and they created citations, legal citations that looked great and didn't exist at all, right? No, there was no case that actually existed, but man, it looked good, right? And so, what is it? Half of showing up is looking good, I guess. So check the references, check the citations, right? And more, the models are being programmed that even if you don't ask for citations when you're seeking references, it'll provide the citations for you to be able to say, oh, this is where I was pulling the data from. All right. So now here's the Prezi, right? It dives into, and all this time, what's happening is that I'm speaking to these elements of the slide, right? And maybe generating questions from the audience at this point in time, okay, of things to do, right? And so it's not perfect at the first glance, but it's darn close, right? It looks good overall. And then you can go in and change formats, et cetera. right? So if I wanted a different color palette, I can easily choose different color palettes pretty quickly and it'll change it, okay? If I want a different look here, hang on, it's designing something different for me. Doesn't change the content, it changes the visuals, okay? And so the way Prezi looks, it's this overall from a 30,000 foot view, and then you start diving into the presentation, okay? As an example. I think it can be visually more interesting than PowerPoint. You can go way above board and make it visually distracting as well, just like you can with PowerPoint, right? So be cautious on making sure you know your audience when you're doing this. Let me flip back and see how the other models are doing real quick. Give me a second here. There's that one. All right, this looks good. Let me share both Claude and ChatGPT. So there we go. Okay, so you should be seeing ChatGPT right now. Here's the deck. It took 17 minutes and 56 seconds to create the deck from the content. Okay, now arguably, again, verify that it looks right. So ChatGPT is finished. Claude Claude works directly in PowerPoint. And here's what I just happened to. I'm using free. And Greg, what happened here? Claude reached its tool use limit for this term. Okay. So what happened is I'm not paying for anything here. It's free. And I've reached a capacity limit somewhere within the model. So I'm going to say continue and let's see what happens, right? We'll let that build. In the meantime, I'm going to download this one and open it up into PowerPoint. And I'll share that with you here in just a second. So we can see what the results look like. Okay, and let's go to this, and I'm gonna bump it up in size a little bit. All right. The text is a little boring, quite honestly, right? The font. So I'll work on those things if I want this as a presentation. By the way, it clearly said educational, not a sales pitch. I'm going to remove that, right? So that I don't put it in the minds that, hey, this is really a sales pitch disguised as education, right? Here's the agenda, managed service providers. I'm generally okay with it, right? I'm going to change, if I'm going to actually use this particular one for presentation, I'm going to change some of the fonts just for visual usefulness.
Mark, real quick, if you click that Claude up on the upper right, that should open exactly like a little Claude window right there. Yeah, where you just were. A little bit to the
right
left,
here.
a little bit to the left, slightly more to right there. Claude. Where it says Claude. See that?
I'm not seeing that.
Right.
Oh, right there underneath. You know why?
Yeah.
The Zoom link was over it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
All right.
that'll open up and give you the opportunity to log into Claude where you can
Right.
actually chat with it just like I did on Excel a few
Okay.
weeks ago.
Great.
And you can just tell it to make the changes that you're asking for too, and it'll go do those.
Okay. So now it's doing that, almost done. Copy sign-in code. Great. Allow that to happen. Paste the code there. That looks good. Let's see. No pending sign-in. Clock in. Let me start over. Okay. So I'll trust you that that is what's happening.
But yeah,
And
you would have
actually,
to sign in for
yeah,
that.
if I had started from my desktop Claude, it would already be taken care of. So, because those were linked already. But now, right, we're just using this. This is the output from ChatGPT, not Claude, right?
And you might want to zoom out a little because it's kind of zoomed in too far for us to see.
Sorry. Let me see. Hang on a second. And let me do is that better?
That's perfect. Yeah.
Okay, great. Right. And so it goes through again. There's visual stuff I would change, but I like the way it pretty quickly, right? There's some problems here, right, on how this information is right. You got to fix things. So go through your stuff, right? You don't want to be caught in the presentation with something that looks messy, right? But gosh, it took a lot of the work out of the way for me, right? Now I can focus on the finishing touches and then spend my time learning the information and making sure it's right versus spending my time creating the content. Now, based on your prompts, you're garbage in, garbage out. If I'm asking ridiculous things, I might get ridiculous answers. Likely I will, right? So be cautious on that. Okay. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing real quick here and let me jump into, give me a second here to get back into. All right, so we have that. Let's see if Claude has finished. Actually, it did. Let me show you real quick, Claude, and then we'll get into what Claude provided. So give me a second here. That should be the one for Claude. All right, here's what Claude provided. And it provided it in line, meaning in the program, right? Engaging managed service providers. Here's the slide deck within the Claude window that's in the browser. Okay. So here's the content, and I can download it if I want. It's in a PPTX version, which is the most recent version of PowerPoint, right? And it doesn't look bad, right? It provides some visual interest. And there, again, still some things to adjust, but I think it did a better job at the PowerPoint at the first pass than ChatGPT did, as an example. Okay, it's a 10 slide, 1 hour with Q&A for 10 minutes. So not a bad output for arguably less than 45 minutes of effort, right? And while I'm talking, running two AIs at the same time, and then also showing you present, right? So if I had been on the ball and focused only on one AI, probably done with this in about 30 minutes, okay? Which then gives you a ton of time to be able to make sure it looks good. Greg, in an earlier presentation on the RFPs, right, you had mentioned to the audience that you had used a couple of AI models to apply for and win an RFP with a school district. And the feedback that you got from the school district, you had finished about 2 weeks before the deadline for submission of the response to the RFP. And that gave you time to go through it and make sure everything looked great versus you finished the night before the deadline and had, a few hours with lots of coffee to figure out if you did a good job on the response rate, right?
We call
And
that
so,
AI thinking time because what it
yeah,
allows you to do by taking away so much of the mundane busy work part of the task, you can
yep,
really spend the important thinking time on, is this saying what you want to say? Is this going to go over the way you want? You could practice in front of the mirror if you want, doing your presentation more often, and just allow you that more time to develop quality.
right. And so, and I love that. Is there a question? Okay. And then ChatGPT again, it timed out on us, or Claude timed out on a certain thing. And so then I asked it to continue. And so it did. And now it's asking, what do you want me to do next? And I said speaker notes for each slide, because you can have the presentation view and the speaker's view. If you're on a laptop or a computer and you're presenting out, you can have your speaker notes on the presenter's view, right, versus the audience view. And that can be helpful, especially if you're coming into the information a little bit cold. The speaker notes are really useful. Okay, I think these are done, right? We've looked at what both can do. And so there's a variety of ways to do that. Now, if I may, from a time perspective, is there anybody from the audience who has a topic that they'd want to run through? And I'm going to flip over to my desktop quad and use that, quite honestly, because that'll be a better experience. So if there's anybody who wants to walk with me through a topic that they need a presentation for, let's do this. I'm not going to charge you my normal hourly rate. You get it for free today. And so Anybody want to come off mute and walk me through something?
This is
Okay.
Yep.
Daryl.
Oh, go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, Daryl. Let's
Well,
hear it.
I didn't have a suggestion. I was just saying I've used this format before with Chat GPT and a different presentation AI, beautiful AI. And I'm just seeing the sort of advantage of the two different AIs.
Okay, great. Let me go. I appreciate that. And I hope it was useful for you. This on your screen is the desktop version. I have an Apple Mac, a MacBook. So this is a desktop version for Apple of Claude. So it's a paid. And right now I'm using Sonnet 4.6 versus Opus 4.6. Reason is I kept timing out on Opus for the stuff I was giving it. And it would say, we'll reset in 12 hours, even with the paid version, something like that. So I found that Sonnet's pretty good. Now you'll see 3 tabs here, chat, co-work, which is pretty interesting, right? And let me take you through a new version here, a new task in co-work. And so the way co-work says, let's knock something off your list, right? Greg, I'm going to ask you, I'm relying on you a lot on this presentation. Thank you in advance. Differences between chat and co-work.
I mean, I think that this app, what we're looking at right now, probably deserves its own Echo presentation
Fair enough.
because it's going viral in the business community because of exactly just how functional what this allows you to do. But the chat is what most people are used to when it comes to chatting with their AI.
Right.
Just this is just a desktop app, but most of the typical chat stuff that you're used to is what you use chat for. When it comes to the cowork side, if you switch back over to cowork, um, yeah, the interesting part there is you can actually give it access to folders on your desktop computer. So you can give it whole directories and start asking questions about specific files and folders within your computer desktop, which is super powerful. Because you don't have to, upload files, like you might normally for chatting. You can even create workflows that, create documents and add them to folders and really give the AI access to your computer in a
Right.
way that, we haven't really seen before.
And then finally, the code tab, Greg.
And the code tab is something that I use all the time to
Right.
actually write code. So if you need to, write applications, write code, run scripts, and that kind of thing, you can use this coding tool here and
Okay.
start building applications.
Okay. So essentially, I could, if I wanted to, say, hey, I'd like an application that um, coordinates between 2 different calendars, as an example, right? And could it build that?
Yeah.
Or, okay,
Yeah, or I want an application that sorts the files in this one folder for me based on some heuristics and gives
okay,
me its suggested place to move the files and
okay,
lets me click yes or no or other or something like that.
fair enough. Okay, got it. All right. So in the chat, so I'm assuming there's nobody who wants a free presentation today, which is fine. That's all right. But know that it can be done and it can be done pretty quickly, right? I've used this for a number of um, opportunities, right? There's a cybersecurity forum conference happening in Las Cruces at the end of this month, and they asked for a submission of topics. And their initial said in 300 words, right? Tell us what your topic is. And then they came back and said, in 300 characters, tell us what your topic is. So there's a huge difference between 300 words and 300 characters. So I had a great 300 word summary of my topic, right? And I then told Claude, I said, there was a mistake. I need what you just put, I need that to be in 300 characters. And that helped me get the submission accepted. So going down to Las Cruces at the end of the month to present to a cybersecurity and agriculture conference about the importance of cyber insurance within agriculture and food industries where you have very computer intensive operations. So at any rate, all right.
Hey, Mark, I have a quick question. Just based on
Yeah,
what you
Greg.
showed us today, you showed us a few different ways to make presentations. Do you find yourself gravitating more towards, using traditional PowerPoint slides with Claude like you showed, or what was the app that you used to?
Prezi.
Yeah, Prezi. Which do you find yourself gravitating to more recently?
I appreciate that question. I like Prezi for the visual aspects of it more, but I'm not as good in it yet as I am in PowerPoint. So if I'm time crunched, I'll default to PowerPoint, right? Because I'm very experienced with working with and editing PowerPoint slides, right? It's a comfortable environment for me. I just need to block off some time and learn Prezi better to be able to enhance it. Because when I've used the AI aspect of Prezi, right, you're taking something that's generated by AI and then morphing it through another engine, essentially.
Yeah.
And you got to be wary of that.
It looks like we, sorry to interrupt, have Christina in the chat asking if she is, has an outline or a topic. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, Christina, that's fine. And then Minerva, you also have a question as well.
Yes, I do have a question. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I work here for the Hispano Chamber of Commerce Convention and Tourism Department. And my question is, utilizing these AI tools, if it's better to use like a paid version and if it's more secure, if I were to upload like a legal contract and then you'll ask it to generate a report based on that, or should I get that contract and do something generic? Like what advice do you give us? Because I
So
don't know how much.
if you're using the free version, make the contract generic so that there's no party names in it, there's no proprietary information in it first. Okay. If you're using a paid version, make sure you've opted out of the fact you're sharing data with the company for training purposes. Right. The default, as Greg said earlier, is that for almost all versions, that the default is they're going to use your training data for training purposes, meaning whatever you provide it, it's going to then be in this large collection of information that's available, right? So if you don't opt out of sharing the data for training purposes, make that contract generic, right?
Got it. Okay.
And that's going to be good enough, right? Because it's less important what the parties' names are versus the substance of the contract. Now,
Absolutely.
mind you, these aren't attorneys, right? This is not illegal, but it's not a bad thing to do as a first pass before you give it to legal counsel. Okay. On that level. All right. Is that helpful?
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Great. Christina, you said you have an outline that you'd like to present. Is that right? And I got about 7 minutes. And you can come off mute if you want. Oh, there it is. Look at that. All right. Let's do this.
Hi, I think some of it may have gotten cut off, but I mean, that's the gist of it. So, and I think if I understood right, taking like an outline and then generating it is what we were working on.
Yeah,
Is this too much?
No, what you've done is you've taken a step out of the process, right? The outline is good. And if that's what you want to make sure that the outline creates your guardrails, meaning this is what I want to talk about, that's fine too, right?
Okay.
You can also use the AI to say, I'm speaking to this audience about this topic. It needs to be an hour long, and I want you to cover these items. And then ask me any questions for clarity. I've found that the AI models are already asking the questions for clarity, whether I say that or not, but it's kind of belts and suspenders for me, right? I want to make sure that happens. So with your permission, Christina, let me drop this into Claude right now. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Okay. Let's see how we do here. And that didn't work. Let's see why not. Let me see. Copy that. Okay, got it. All right, we're going to run that through. And I gave it just as it's gonna start working. Now, this is the paid desktop version of Claude. So let me build the presentation. I'll use a warm, earthy color palette. That's great. Fitting for a child care education setting. Sage greens and warm terracotta tones. Who knew that it was also an interior designer, right? That's fantastic. So this may take a bit. But Christina, I see your email address there. If we run out of time, I can send you the results with your permission.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And so let me make sure I have do you mind? Let me see if I can, give me a second here. I'm just going to start an email so that I know I have your email address correctly. Well, it's working.
Yes.
Nope, I didn't do it.
And it looks like we do have one more question. Perhaps Greg
I
can
see it.
speak to this.
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as speaking versus typing into your AI prompts, is there a differentiation, Greg? And what does that look like? Have you seen any differentiation?
Sometimes it's better, to talk to the AI if you have the ability to dictate into it. Um, and it allows you to kind of just stream of consciousness, talk about what you're trying to do, maybe get more into it than you would typing. I alternate between both quite often, just kind of depending on, whether or not I have time to sit down and type it. Sometimes when you're typing, it does give you a little bit more time to think about and be articulate and more precise with your wording versus, stream of consciousness, just talking to it. So I think it just kind of depends on what you're trying to do, and what you find, easier to communicate in the moment.
Thank you,
I
Greg.
think that's right.
Yeah.
And I tend to default to typing just because of the more structured format. I tend to type more structured than I speak, right? And so it always amazed me when I was a practicing attorney and had to dictate notes. You got to be really careful, right, of the wording, right, to make sure that what you're speaking, because people speak different than they write, tend to do that. And so I appreciate a little bit more the precision of typing, although I'm certain I said the word in my head and it never reached the keyboard. So there's that as well.
So
Yeah, and AIs can learn your communication style, and you can even in a lot of them, like, Chat GPT, right there when you click on your name, it has sort of a personalization settings, and you can
Right.
tweak the characteristics and, give it information and custom instructions as well.
Very good. Christina, got a couple minutes left. How does this look? Just at first pass.
Yeah, it looks good. Sorry, I lost the screen.
And
I'll
Mark and
send you.
Christina, you're welcome to stay a few minutes after the session as well. So
Okay.
please don't feel like you have to rush. We can stay for a few minutes afterward if that's
No
okay.
problem. Okay. I don't have to insert another quarter into Zoom to keep going?
No, you
No?
don't.
All right. Just checking.
But so to wrap up, what I would like to remind everybody is that this is an open invitation for anyone who would like to share a real technology challenge that they faced or have observed. And you can submit your case. It doesn't have to be related to today's topic. It's any IT related topic that you may have questions about. Dominic is posting a link in the chat box where you can fill out a case presentation form that asks 3 questions about your about your challenge. And you can then email that to hispanochamberecho@gmail.com. And Dominic will also post that email address in the chat box. And we encourage you to send in any questions that you have. This is a fantastic opportunity to have subject matter experts come in and help support you with these questions. Again, we appreciate you joining us today. Mark, thank you for that fantastic presentation.
Sure. Good questions.
Yeah, fantastic questions. Thank you for everyone for participating. Dominic, is there anything you'd like to add?
Do you want me to give a quick blurb on the next Project Echo?
Yes, please. That would be great, Greg.
Okay, sure. So I'll be presenting the next Project Echo in 2 weeks from today, and it's going to be on voice AI agents, particularly around phone use. So I'm going to show what's possible, what's capable right now with putting an AI on the phone, and how they might benefit your business.
Fantastic. Thank you. We look forward to that. And that's going to be on April 7th from 10 to 11. And once again, you can find our sessions on YouTube at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel. All of our sessions are posted there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
There's a survey that was just posted, Dominic, right?
Correct.
You posted the information, right? Take a few moments just to complete the survey. We really rely on the surveys to help us do this better, right? Every time. We always want to improve. We want to make the next effort better than the last. Usually when Greg's following me, that's a foregone conclusion. So that's a good thing. But thank you for the time today. I appreciate it. Christine, I'll stay on a little bit. We can stay on and go through. And if you like what you're seeing, I'll email you the PowerPoint. Okay.
Yep. Thank you everybody for being here. Again, please take the survey, and we look forward to seeing you at next session.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks.